we have to fight for human rights, not civil rights.
That's right.
Civil rights, it's already been proven. Everything that Dr. King and everybody fought for civilly has now been turned back. Human rights changes the structure. That's why Malcolm was so dangerous, because he was about to bring the United States to the UN court, charging them with genocide. Human rights violations, not civil rights violations. Because you can get your civil rights amended, but that can always be pulled back because that's human law. But when you deal with human rights, you can't take that back, because once it's established, and that's happening in the UN right now as we speak. I know brothers and sisters that are working on the United Nations, the indigenous laws that they're now beginning to pass. And that's why you hear a lot of people talking about how, we need to forget about the UN and all the rest of that, because there's stuff happening now. So, but that special ed, man, is just, that's why we got to homeschool our children. That's why we have to change our diet. Because a lot of that comes from them pancakes and syrup that the young people eat in the morning. And, bless the sister's heart who believes that she's helping the nutritional staff say, oh, honey, you're so sweet. I'm going to give you 2 little tubs of syrup instead of 1. But she don't realize that brother's going to go off the wall by 9 o'clock with all that syrup in them, because there's 3 and 4 different types of sugar. You got glucose, sucrose, and all sorts of stuff that's making, when it goes in your system, you go buck wild crazy. Yeah, corn syrup, all that stuff is making you go all sorts of stuff. So that, there's many things we have to do. We have to start drinking a little bit more water, and we have to, and I'm not saying you got to cut out everything. I'm just saying that you got to substitute stuff for it, And some of the fruit juices are as sugary as the sodas are. So, we have to be careful. We have to start drinking a little bit more water, eating a little bit more green things. That kale salad that Brother James was eating today, that was full of oxygen. Because it's a plant and it's chlorophyll, and plants give off oxygen. So you're eating oxygen, and water has H2O. So you're drinking oxygen. Mm-hmm. And the bottom line to life is that oxygen is getting to your cells, as Dr. Sabi teaches us. It's about getting oxygen to the cells, because without oxygen, your cells will suffocate and they'll die, and then dead cells become tumors, and then that becomes the diseases that we have. But as long as you're taking in oxygen, you're taking in breathing. Your body is breathing. So we have to start to up a little bit more of the green things. I enjoy collard greens, kale, mustard greens, romaine lettuce, drinking water, drinking seltzer water. I enjoy that too. So just things we have to start looking at.
So you touched on so many different things, but I guess my question would be this. We know that black people have been under attack by so many different ways. Like you said, through the prison, the school to prison pipeline, the narcotics, the black families under attack. Is there anything new on the horizon that we may not know of, that's not spoken of as much, that is going to be, because I don't know if it's the, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, I don't know if there's anything left in it for them to come up with to attack black folks with that hasn't already been done, or is there something new that a lot of us not aware of at this time?
Brother, I honestly and truthfully believe no. They are relentless in their attacks on us, and we have to have a very serious discussion, even with our brothers and sisters who are coming from other parts of the world who are African, whether it be the Caribbean, South America, or Africa herself, because they're buying into this concept also. And the reason why is because the African brought up in the United States is the reason the year after the Civil Rights Bill was passed, in 1966, the immigration law became illegal because of what happened in 1965. So the immigration laws broke down, and that is why you have so many people coming from around the world here. I'm not asking them to do anything for me. You don't owe me anything, but just know history. You wouldn't be in this country if it wasn't for us. The African in the United States put their life and limb on the line in order for you to be able to get here. So the reason why you came here for a better life was was made possible because of us. Yet, when you come with the preconceived notion of the European who comes to this country. And you wonder, when you view us as African Americans, you wonder, why do we do what we do? Why do we act the way we act? But you don't know history. So you don't know what we've been through to be able to properly judge us for our pain. No excuse. We shouldn't be doing it. I'm not using an excuse. But what I'm saying is that there is a reason why there are the gangs. There's reasons why we are shooting each other. There are reasons why we treat each other the way. There are reasons. There are no excuses, but there are reasons. And if African Americans were to be treated so badly in this country, we up and left to go to another country that would offer us benefits, we wouldn't act the way we act here. We would act the same way you're acting, because before you start talking about how we act here, I have to ask you, why did you come here in the first place? I've had discussions with some of our brothers, not all, but some brothers from Africa and sisters who have, said, well, why do, well, black Americans is the term. Why do black Americans act the way they act? And I, in my own little way, I try to explain to them in a very brief way. But then I asked them, I have a question for you. What made you come here? Izabe said, y'all don't act right where you came from either. Otherwise, you'd have stayed there. The one thing you got to give us credit for is we ain't leaving. We ain't leaving. America is ours, and we're going to make it ours. Some way, somehow, we're going to make America ours. We ain't going to leave. You see? And so that's the mindset, But the other thing, unfortunately, is many of our brothers and sisters, as you've seen in Hidden Colors, that they go to workshops told not to hang out with us. In the Caribbean. My wife is from Jamaica. The image that they have of black Americans and what they're taught about black Americans. When I got married in 1981, I was impacted by Bob Marley, 1975. Natty Dread was the first album I got, Bob Marley. And in listening to Bob Marley, Trenchtown Rock, talk about Trenchtown. When I went to Jamaica in 1981, I said, I want to go to Trenchtown. That's the one thing. Of all the things they said, is anything special you want to do? I said, I want to go to Trenchtown. Bob Marley had already joined the Ancestors by this time. And I said, I want to go to Trenchtown, because I've been hearing all about Trenchtown. I want to go to Trenchtown. And nobody would take me to Trenchtown. They said, that's the bad man's land. I said, what are you talking about? Trenchtown? Bob Marley's in Trenchtown. They said, no, that's where the bad man lived. I said, well, I want to go to Trenchtown. They said, no, we didn't. So there was a helper, a maid that they call, in Jamaica, who lived in Trenchtown. And so I found out. So I went to her, I said, I want to go to Trenchtown. Can you show me what Trenchtown looked like? She said, sure. So she spoke to people. And so my wife and her sister and family and everybody, not everybody, but we all decided we were going to go to Trenchtown, and it was going to be the helper that was going to take us. So we went. And I'm sitting in the car. The sister says, I'll be right back. I just have to drop. So I'm waiting there. I'm saying, but what happened to sister? She said, well, she had to drop something off, and she had to talk to somebody in her house. And I said, but wait a minute, she live in Trenchtown. And they said, yeah, this is Trenchtown. And I said, this is Trenchtown? So I got up out the car. And the only difference between Trenchtown and the project that I grew up in New York is that in Trenchtown, it's dirt roads, where in the projects it's cement. Mm. And so I get up out the car, and there's a Rasta over there. I said, yo, Rasta, what up? And he come over, we start talking and going back and forth, and I tell him, I'm here, man, I just want to get to Trenchtown, Bob Marley. He said, well, I'm going to call my friend. So he called his friend, his other friend come over. So pretty soon, all these Rasta and people from Trenchtown, we just kicking it. But you see, here's the key. They do the same thing in Harlem. They make you afraid to go to Harlem. They make us afraid to be with each other, so that we will never know that we're all struggling in the same way. Mm. Trenchtown was like my neighborhood. The conversations I was having with the brothers, kicking it in the street of Trenchtown, they brought over coconut water to me to drink. We had a great time. They asked me questions about New York and about, where I'm from, and I was telling them about, and we were having a great time. The point I'm making is that they make us afraid to be with each other. So if they can get to a Nigerian or to a Ghanaian, or if they can get to someone from the Caribbean or Central or South, don't associate with them black Americans. They're bad people. So when they come up, they're afraid because, see, for them, this is a land of opportunity. They don't want to mess up their stuff. They're ready to get a job, so they work with a black American or an African American. All of a sudden, they don't want to associate because they've been taught, stay away from him, you'll lose your job. And so when they come up again with this love that I have for our people, I understand what our brothers and sisters from around the world are going through, so I don't try to get too hard on them like that. But let me tell you something. My experiences in the Board of Education, I saw a rise of students from West Africa in South Central Bronx where I taught in the last 15 years. And what I noticed is that, I'll tell you a story. There was a young girl from, I forget what country it was, but it was in West Africa. Could be Guinea or Nigeria. But for the sake of the story is going to come through. She would curse for no reason. She just was very disrespectful. Very disrespectful. I mean, really. For no reason she was disrespectful. And parents used to come in. And one day, parents came in and said, we have to send her back because America is destroying her. Culture shock. Because I used to tell her, where you from, if you ever spoke to an adult like that, they would whoop you. They would take care of your business if you ever spoke to an adult like that. So under that type of pressure, when our family comes to America and it's open, okay, I remember a story a parent told me that her daughter, again from somewhere in West Africa, was misbehaving badly, and the parent whipped her, and the daughter said, I'm going to call 911. She said, you going to call 911? She beat her with the phone. She beat the girl with the phone, and then gave her the phone and said, call 911. You ain't calling 911 in Africa. There's no security force that's going to, if you misbehave, they're going to take care of your business right there. They ain't playing with you. But to get back to the story with this girl, she went back, and she came back about 4 months later, perfectly behaved. I said, what happened? She said, my grandmother sent me back. My grandmother said, America has destroyed you. We don't want you here. We disown you. We don't want you in Africa. What America has done to you, you were never like this when you were with us. And so what's happening to so many of our brothers and sisters who are coming here, they're being impacted by a culture that is so open, and there's no discipline in family structure. Children think they can call 911 and everything's all right. And so, to get back to your question, brother, there's nothing new. There's nothing new but more of the same. But here's what I think is going to happen, and here's what I think is happening. There's a fundamental change that is occurring all around us. There are people who are now coming into the light of information that allow things like this to happen. That allow us to come together and chop it up and to reach out to brothers and sisters from Africa, from the Caribbean, from places where they're coming and they're learning our history. I was told by a student that did some student teaching in Kenya last year. He told me that he walked into a university auditorium in Kenya and they were playing Hidden Colors in Kenya, so that this word is getting out across the globe. And that there is a coming together of us as a people. So what I focus on is the reality is that they are relentless in what they do. They will never stop because they know that their demise, their ending is happening as we speak. So they'll never give up. They'll never stop. And we need to turn inward on ourselves and begin to develop educational programs. And we need to get the spiritual community together. And I think that when we start looking at what we need to do, what they're doing will be meaningless to us because they're already in trouble. Because I'm telling you, I observe Donald Trump, and I think he's a phenomenon. He really is a phenomenon. He is. I mean, you know, we say that they weren't expecting President Obama, but nobody was expecting Donald Trump. Donald Trump has done more damage to the Republican Party than all the Democrats combined could do. He has destroyed the Republican Party. He has demeaned them. He has taken the so-called ones that were supposed to be the ones that would inherit the White House. He reduced them to rubble. And he has been more of an... I believe that Donald Trump's campaign manager is Bill Clinton. Because nobody could have done a better job to destroy this. But I'm going to tell you something. Donald Trump, the way you see things happen, we're looking at what I call arrogant ignorance. That's the base of white supremacy. And I often tell people that President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama had 3 children. Okay, and everybody said, come on, man, they only had 2. I said, no, they had 3. And they say, okay, Sasha and Malia. Okay, yeah. But the Tea Party. When he became president, and they saw that sister in the White House with those daughters, and when they saw Queen Mother, her mother, in the White House with them, that's a perfect African structure of society, by the way. White folk went buck wild crazy. They could not handle that. They could not handle President Obama being president. And so what they decided to do, the craziest of them all, decided that they were going to get together. And they did. And they elected crazier people than them. We now call them the Tea Party. Tea Party went buck wild crazy. Just crazy as crazy could be. They were willing to shut down the country just so that President Obama would not have success. They were willing to let the country be destroyed, lose their credit, everything, just because of him. Buck wild crazy. Failed at everything they attempted to do. Almost brought, despite the fact that he did things that he wanted, they nearly brought this country to its knees around the world. And everybody around the world knows this because President Obama was in the White House. But the Tea Party had no respect for the so-called established Republican Party. It's like a child that rebukes its parents. Republicans created the Tea Party, but the Tea Party created Donald Trump. And Donald Trump don't respect the Tea Party or the Republicans. He's crazy. He's just simply crazy. And the only thing better than him running for president is if he won. Put him in the White House, America's up. Your time is up. I hope he wins. No, but look at the strategy that I'm saying. The strategy is what I'm dealing with. You want to bring America down? You already heard what the Mexican president said to him. He said, let him build the wall himself. Yeah. I ain't never heard a president talk to another person like that in my life. They have no respect for him. They see him as a clown. They see him as a carnival barker. They don't see him. They will never take him seriously. And he will never do the things he says he's going to do. So if he becomes president, Dolly House is over. It's over. And so but here's the other piece to it. Are we prepared to do what we need to do if he did?